Hello, everyone, and welcome to Open Division NA here on Reflash Prod. We've got a big winners bracket matchup here. Round 7 of the winners bracket is going to be Maryville University versus Side Hustle. I'm NSB, and I'm joined on this lovely afternoon by Beak. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. This is going to be an exciting match. I mean, we're getting to the end of the Open Division story here. Had a lot of narratives that have been built out in the last month or the last week. And we have a whole new storyline to be built this weekend too. So, I mean, I think this game to begin with today in NA is going to be, a barn burner, so to speak, because just looking up and down these rosters have contenders level talent. You have from all regions, from South America, from EU, from North America. You have ex-Overwatch League players in Halo on the side of Maryville. So, I mean, this has all the makings to be an incredible game.
Yeah, definitely two squads full to the brim with talent. And if we think about our bracket, really, these two teams are 2 games away from the Open Division Grand Finals. We are in Winners Round 7. Next one is going to be Winners Round 8, which is the finals. So both teams definitely want that boost to get themselves into the Grand Finals without a hassle, without having to drop down to the losers bracket and fight their way back up. It would definitely be tough to do said thing. But if we look at Side Hustle, what do you really expect from them in terms of lineup and in terms of composition, Beak?
Well, this is going to be the biggest question I have going into not just this game, but the entire rest of this weekend, because as everyone knows, we had a patch in last week or two that might change how teams are playing, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of ball compositions come out for literally the past 3 months now, and teams at this caliber have been practicing that every day. But from what I've seen and heard, we've seen a lot of Brawl be pretty successful this week in scrims. And a couple different varieties too. You see some Ryan Zarya, you see Ryan Orisa, Ryan Diva. It can be pretty varied and very diverse. I think Jake on the Houston Outlaws even tweeted that is a pretty diverse meta right now. So that's anyone's question, honestly, is the long answer to that is what will we see these two teams run? I feel like we're going to see some Brawl, especially coming from Maryville. Like you said, we talked about in the pregame, Gru was very good on that Zarya, very comfortable on that. So I think we're going to see them play a little more traditional Brawl, but we might see the adjustments come in because of the fact that they've been scrimming Ball Zarya, Ball Diva for months on end.
Yeah, I think exactly you hit the nail on the head. Brawl is definitely going to be a common theme in this match, I think, but we really could see anything out of either side. And as well, you said that these teams are full of talent. You got ex-contenders players, contenders trials players. Again, if we look at the bracket a bit, Maryville coming off a few big wins, especially against Drifters just a couple rounds ago. They beat M1 to get where they are today. But on the other side, Side Hustle also claiming some huge victories against Defense Mode and Drip and Heat, those 2 previous rounds to this matchup. And moving forward, the 2 teams have the chance to face off against Sigma No Hands or Edge Gamers, whichever one of those 2 teams advances onto the winners finals will be meeting the victor of this match today. But anything else you'd like to note, as our first map is going to be Lijiang Tower, I believe, Beak?
Yeah, and this one's going to be an interesting one to open up with. I mean, just kind of jumping on the conversation of what the meta will look like, what the compositions will look like. Lijiang Tower can be a variety of different things to whatever that you want to play as a team, right? So many, like, Control Center is extremely Brawl heavy. So I doubt no matter what we are seeing for the rest of this series, we're going to see some Brawl there, right? But then you can run the sim strats on Night Market. You have Garden that could be dive potentially. You have that ball composition is really good there as well. So this could be a real opportunity for both teams to show the diversity of the different compositions they can play and how well they can play them.
Yeah, I think Gardens even opens itself up to maybe a flying composition. You can even run the sim there if you're comfortable getting to the point fast. Right. And it's going to be a battle of who can get that teleporter up on both of these maps. The Control Center even offers a Junkrat in the composition if you want to hold those close corners, hold the choke points that are really tough to get through, and a lot of Reinhardt definitely to be expected. I think Wrecking Ball Diva could come out, as well as the Flyers on Garden. And again, we can't say it enough. The compositions are definitely going to be in question in this matchup.
And I think it's going to be an evolution, right? I think we're going to see teams kind of be feeling each other out a little bit in the early going before settling in on a comp, right? I mean, because I think that is such an open question right now, not just in this match, not just in this tournament, but across all regions across the world right now, trying to figure out what is that best composition, especially in these open divisions. So I think it's going to be a bit of a fact-finding mission, so to speak, going into not just this map, but throughout the series.
And speaking of throughout the series, we will have Escort after Lijiang Tower, followed by Hybrid, Assault, and Control if we do make it as far as those tiebreaker maps, but it is going to be a best out of 5, and the loser will pick, I believe, on those later maps in the series. So it will be definitely interesting to think about what teams can come up with a wacky composition on one of those maps that they may select. I think we're going to see Kings Row definitely as our third map in the series. As we looked through these teams before, we found that they both have an unconditional love for that map. So definitely thinking Kings Row is going to be the third one in the series. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, thinking about the Escort potentially after Lijiang Tower, it's definitely an interesting pool of maps.
Yeah, exactly. And I really think about it's so interesting to see the different like the team histories, right? So Maryville, you have, Guru and Halo and some of these other teams or some other players that have been, ex-contenders, ex-Overwatch players, Overwatch League. A lot of us on the Saints team as the contenders team that have been rotated back into that official Maryville logo, of Maryville brand. So they've been playing together for a long time, whereas this side hustle has some players coming from similar teams in terms of a couple ex-Noble players and here in NA, an EU player, I think, in the like of Eli. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see, like, we have a lot of talent. It just is that team chemistry that Maryville has built up over time going to be advantageous to side hustle, or are they going to be able to still make this work for them, regardless of the type of how much work that they've had put in as a team in terms of their young history. So, I mean, I think it's very doable. Milky Man is a very capable main tank. And yeah, the Escort is just always an interesting map. I always want to be focusing on, like, the fact that you want to win the first map, the way you can kind of control the pace of the series, get out to an early 1-0 lead is going to be key for both of these teams.
Yeah, and I think it will be very interesting to see how these two teams fare out. Maryville, like you noted, probably has the advantage in terms of chemistry, but that offers itself back to the composition question, where what can Side Hustle do to disrupt that synergy? Can they come up with a crazy comp of their own? But before we get into this one, before we jump straight into the gameplay, anything else you'd like to add, Beak?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm hearing that we might actually going into Ilios, not Lijiang. So all the conversation that we just talked about Lijiang Tower is great intel, but it might not be relevant for our first map. Because I think both teams are jumping into Ilios here as the first map in the series.
Yeah, and Ilios, another very versatile map. A lot of these control maps on each of their sections can be so different from each other. You've got the Ruins offering the Widowmaker, the sniper duels. You can even play a dive on the well or the lighthouse, and even some Symmetra strats on this map as well. You've got the TPs around the side of the lighthouse just to get yourselves implanted on point really quick. I mean, we should be ready to hop into this one. Ilios, like you said, Beak, is going to be the map of choice, but I mean, it's just mere seconds before we get into this one. Any other compositional notes you would like to point out here as we do actually head into the lighthouse?
Yeah, so as we jump in the lighthouse here in just a second, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting is to, regardless of what kind of compositions they play, are they going to try and clear the side ground first? Or are they just going to go straight to point here for the brawl? Because if they're playing like a McCree, you might want to give them that high ground for that advantageous positioning. So we're going to see what they want to run here, but I mean, we're going to get in here in just a couple of seconds to see kind of the philosophy between both of these teams and their approach. As we see Cameron and Guru again coming out on a ball a ball Zarya composition. We have Milky Man and Maximus going to be playing more of that brawl tanky tank. So again, differing philosophies out here to start the beginning of this match.
It'll be very interesting to see the pathing that Guru takes, and On the Zarya, it's definitely less of a mobile hero compared to Maximus's Diva. So how do you think Guru is going to make his way onto the point and maybe get up onto that high ground?
Yeah, it's just going to be a matter of trying to use your abilities in an advantageous way. Just forcing out the boosts from Maximus is going to be really important. But more importantly here is Maryville on this ball comp is going to be just surrounding and harassing Side Hustle and taking the fight to them quick, because Maryville wants to really just be, around them and just use that ball Zarya, use that ball Tracer to be able to harass the backline.
The advantage in pathing definitely going the way of Side Hustle as they move on to the newly unlocked objective here. Cameron rolling through, getting ready to engage here for Maryville, but he's stunned up, and instantly you see this burst damage potential coming out of Edison on the McCree. Still Side Hustle looking to lock down a singular kill, but Maryville ducking and dodging, and Side Hustle do have control of the objective, but it's just a matter of time before another dive comes in. It looks like it may be shut down, though, as Eli, with an early Ice of Light, very nice shot there. They follow it up with the kill onto Cameron, and it seems like Maryville are going to have to pack up and get off this objective.
Yeah, it's going to be a reset here for Maryville, and the big problem is that they allowed Side Hustle to rotate freely to the point, be able to take all that space and basically say, hey, come in here and dive us. Makes it very tough for the likes of Cameron to be able to get in. And you see now that change is being reflected. Cameron's going to move over to the main tank, and Light's going to go over to the Doomfist here. So very interesting change. Haven't really seen much Doomfist here lately, but this could be a big shakeup as we go into this next fight.
Light is going to be looking for an opener, but it's going to be Guru who gets it first. Papaya Pete looking for the Deadeye on the high ground. A few skulls, he does see them and capitalizes upon them. You've got the Deadeye from the other side as well, as Orchid falls. Can't capitalize on that amplification matrix. It looks like Maryville in the end will take control of this objective. They lost a few members, and there could be a quick re-engage though.
Yeah, we have to try and get Milky Man out. It seems like he is going to be staying. He's going to have that shadow ready to go, as Guru has his grab. So I'm curious to see what are we going to do here, because they don't have any DPS ults on the side of Side Hustle.
Definitely open to a more defensive fight, but you see the sound barrier used quite aggressively here. The Graviton Surge solo onto Milky Man. He's going to be antied, and the Immortality Field won't last long. There goes Light, picking him up in the air and slamming him down. You see the bomb coming over the top from Maximus, but nothing gained there. Again, Maryville just staving off these competitors barely, as Maximus looks like he's going to get away. Cameron coming out of this fight with the Earth Shatter, but that's really everything that Maryville has to defend this one, other than Papaya Pete on the Deadeye.
And then they had to use the Nano there to keep Cameron alive, just to be able to hold down that point. So Cameron's going to have to find a lot of value with the Shatter. And if he gets a big one, that is a big fight winner, because they don't have any support ultimates on the side of Side Hustle. They're going to be able to negate this. So it's just a matter of where they take this fight. Maybe they could try a little flashbang over the shield, but early pick on Papaya.
Yeah, Edison finding the early shot. Cameron's walled off. He's going to try and make his way around with the Earth Shatter. And it looks like while that doesn't land, the punches will land true. Orcus goes diving off the side as Guru just beaming down enemies one by one. Another quite scrappy fight, but it's going to go the way of Maryville as they count up towards a potential final one on this round.
Yeah, despite that early pick on the Papaya, they were able to force onto the point just through brute force there. So now they're in a good position here to hold off. This is going to be last fight territory, and Eli does have that Blizzard to be able to have this one fight, and Halo isn't quite there on that beat to be able to negate this. So assuming Eli and the rest of Side Hustle can play fast, this is exactly what they need. But Edison going, oh really? Eddie gets booped!
Oh no! The boop coming through, and Halo very clutch there as Maryville are again looking to take yet another fight. They started off a bit slow, but now they're definitely back in this one. They keep the capture percentage going, they keep overtime going, and they definitely secure this fight very easily. Not even having to use the sound barrier is Halo, as he got that clutch boop to start things off. Blizzard not landing means no opportunities for Side Hustle to get onto that tough objective, and they will drop down 0-1 here on Ilias.
It's just an absolutely devastating series of events there for Side Hustle. They had such a clear win condition in that Blizzard, right? They had it, and they had the opportunity in the window because Halo hadn't had that beat up yet. But Halo gets the advantage of it, and going through pathing through coast is just so dangerous when you have the likes of Halo just patrolling and just getting that free boop kill. And talk about value in general. But when you are booping off the one win condition that Side Hustle needed to have to win that round, it's just game over for them. It was just only a matter of time as we head into the next round here. They're going to stay with the same composition, but Side Hustle is going to move over to that Ball Diva comp. So a little bit of a flipped script here from the first round.
Smart rotation coming out from Maryville, just going to take control of that mini as Side Hustle sets up the very split attack here. It looks like they will get control of this objective first. Cameron's just going to be waiting out these players' dives. They're waiting for a stun. IP definitely looking for that flashbang. Is Milky Man already going low, forcing out a bit of resources from his supports. It looks like now he's going to choose his time to engage, but Halo, again with a nice clutch boop, saves that one off. However, Maryville need to get control of this point fast. It looks like the capture percentage is nearly there. Side Hustle can't quite start it off, but they do just then. Now here comes the rush. Guru getting into the mix. It looks like the tanks will do enough here to flip it very quickly, but I mean, Side Hustle getting away with some early percentage.
It's just so smart the way that Maryville played that, though. They just tried to be as safe as possible to be able, until the point really unlocked, to push that. And even if Side Hustle getting that point unlocked advantage and the point percentage grow, I mean, they just won that fight so definitively on Maryville's side that they're going to be working with some important stuff here, as Guru is going to almost have that grab on this coming side. And they were able to snuff out Milky Man and Eli so well in the beginning of that. Just as long as you know where Milky Man's coming from, takes so much damage. You can see he's already less than half health in this next fight.
Yeah, Eli definitely nowhere close to a pulse bomb, so not much of an opener in that side of the DPS line for Side Hustle, but they are nearly ready to go with the minefield. Maryville definitely going to play it passive yet again, but it looks like now they choose the time to rush. They've got the Deadeye just to zone things out. Eli will be felt with a nice roll through and a stun. This time Side Hustle won't get any capture percentage as that marker doesn't quite go all the way up for them. They will have to retreat out of this fight, but I mean, again, it was pretty scrappy and there could be another re-engage coming soon.
And this is genius again by Maryville. They're playing in that right back side corner in the mini to make it as hard as possible for Side Hustle to dive them, right? How are they going to be able to kind of enwrap them around when they're able to scout you out from every side and every angle? So Guru has this grab and they're ready to use it, but they're already using Trans Orchid in an early Trans use. I wonder what led to that trigger.
It was maybe a misclick, but definitely down to the decision there. He was just getting rushed upon. You see Maximus trying to defense Matrix's supports here as again Maryville controlling the tempo here. The Deadeye comes back into the mix, but Papaya wins that duel and has his own Deadeye ready to go. He's going to take down Eli with said Deadeye, and even as the self-destructed rally expired, Side Hustle still unable to capture any percentage other than that early fight.
And this is last fight, and they have no support ultimates coming into this, and Maryville is in a great position. They have grab, they just have to make sure that wherever Maximus is, Guru grabbing the side and just solo grabbing the brick. That's honestly worth it 99% of the time. So they're already up one here.
It's a great opening again coming from Maryville. They've controlled the tempo of these fights so well as Edison actually comes back up with Symmetra, trying to maybe teleport his team back into the mix, but it looks like they will fall one by one. Orchid trades one onto Guru here, but that's not going to be enough for an entire re-engage. Papaya Pete still cleaning things up on the Cowboy. The 6-shooter landing true, as it looks like Eli is now next in line to touch the objective. He can't do so for very long, and it looks like Maryville will take the decisive win here on Ilias.
I mean, I thought they played both rounds so incredibly smart and disciplined. I mean, no better example than was on that Ilios well. Just playing smart, playing back, waiting for Side Hustle to take the fight to them. That way they can just kind of counter-strat Milky Man and Eli on the Tracer and the Ball. Because as long as you don't, those two aren't effective in their coordination and synergy and like diving the backline, that comp gets nothing done, right? And then of course, once they have to get back out, right, because they're very cycle-based oriented heroes, that's when the brawl of the rest of Maryville can then push onto the more less mobile half of Side Hustle's composition and just bulldoze them over. And you saw that happen time and time again until they swapped over to Symmetra, and then by that time it was game over for Side Hustle because the ult advantage and the ult economy was just too much on the side of Maryville.
Yeah, and like you're saying, it's all about the control of tempo for Side Hustle as they opted for the Wrecking Ball, but they were definitely unable to do so. It looked like Maryville had control of every single one of those fights. They didn't have anyone dropped early, and even when they did lose someone, it was after they had already engaged onto the enemy team with their full-out rush, and at that point, they're going to win the fight 9 times out of 10, even if the other side does have those ultimates ready to go. And I mean, when they're coming back in those stagger heroes like the Symmetra, it's really too late to do anything there. So Maryville definitely with a nice decisive map win. It got better for them on the well. Lighthouse was maybe a bit tough as you saw Side Hustle also coming out with the brawl and maybe taking those fights into their control a few times. But moving on to Havana, it's going to be a completely different game.
Yeah, so I'm mostly curious here as to, again, from a compositional perspective, how will this be different from some of the other maps in the rest of the map pool that we have? I mean, Havana is known for its super long sight lines and, just known for double shield, right? The double shield Arista Sigma is so popular, or was popular here. Is that going to be something that they're going to go back to? Is the brawl, are they going to stay with that? Right? We know that that's always a common strat where people can maybe even spawn camp for a little bit with like a May and Ryan, try and just isolate one of those doors to be able to make everyone push out through the other one, just take as long as they want. So I think it's really interesting that Side Hustle was the one that came out in that first map of Ilios with the brawl comp. Maryville was forced to mirror. Maryville ends up winning that round and the next round with that brawl mirror, or with the brawl variant, right? So Maryville was coming into this with an expectation of playing that ball, but they were ready to go on that brawl composition as well, just speaking of how well they can play both of these different types of game styles.
Yeah, there's two things that I'd love to see here on Havana from these two sides, and it looks like I'm going to get both of them. I want the close defensive hold coming out from the defensive side. It looks like Side Hustle will maybe opt to do that as they are on this brawl with the Sombra. The other thing I'd love to see is the McCree mirror, and it looks like Pia Pete and Ediston will both happily oblige there, both locking at the McCree. But something interesting to note is that Light is currently walking out on this Pharah. We'll see what he can get done.
And I think he knows that, like, they're scouting out the super early kind of like spawn camp, so that's why he's on the Pharah. At least one for a second. He's going to try and get some early picks for less damage, but he's going to opt over to that Tracer to try and get some flanking going. And I mean, already Side Hustle has a good position here in terms of just delaying this cart, not even getting some early progress here.
Like a split assault will come out from Maryville. They're sending their Rhine out to brawl hammer to hammer, and they're wrapping around the backside with their hit scans. They're just looking for maybe one pick that will be their opening, and Guru will be the one to receive such a pick. He's so high charge and just beaming down the enemies. Now it's go time for Maryville. The respawns are definitely in their favor, but they don't even need that advantage. They're even going to stagger Maximus for a short second here as he's stunned and booped away from the objective. Can't even contest.
Oh my god, this is disastrous. Whew. Oh my god, I mean, that's maximum value for Maryville. I mean, Side Hustle, to their credit, was able to delay about 40 to 45 seconds, in front of the spawn door. Now they want to take the fight here, at least Maryville does, to Side Hustle because they know they're down one tank, right? Because they're still waiting for that D.Va to spawn as they are back and ready to go. But Cameron already has a shatter, and that is kind of one of the consequences of making the team play really early on in front of that choke.
That Eye is the early engaging tool here, but it looks like Light will receive the first kill. Pia Pete hacked up, but that doesn't stop him from fanning the hammer onto 3 members of Side Hustle there. 5 minutes on the clock as Maryville continue to roll through this objective here on Havana as Pia Pete still cleaning up.
Good lord, Pia Pete. I mean, if you want to maul the other team, just start right-clicking everybody and getting away with it and having success. I know that maulds every teammate I've ever seen. So I'm sure the rest of Side Hustle, it's no exception as they're taking this high ground early. And they have all their ultimates still, right? They didn't even need to really use anything there. So they already have both tank ultimates, and they can take this fight again to Side Hustle because they don't have any type of beat to be able to counteract this aggressive push that they have now that they're both on the high ground here.
I mean, something very interesting here is that Eli is not really close to this EMP, so there's no tool for Side Hustle here as again, like you called it, a huge shatter coming through as Maryville engages fast and engages successfully. They will lose Cameron, but I mean, the damage has been done. The cart continues to move around these Havana corners.
Yeah, I mean, that was such an aggressive play by Cameron. Goes for the charge, gets counter-charged by Milky Man to break him down, and then just presses W right through the window of Orchid, and didn't even matter. Once you break the shield there, you had a free shatter on the rest of Side Hustle, so credit to them. But they weren't able to stop the cart here, so a big reset from Pete. Already finding a huge pick onto Orchid. That's going to be pretty devastating.
Most likely, Fishcake will have to use the sound barrier early, and he does. It lands onto the 5 surviving members of Side Hustle here, but now they're grabbed in a corner. What can they do to stop this? It looks like they can stop it with the EMP. Maximus claims another 2-piece here as the cart. They're just sort of moving a few inches, but nothing really big here as Maryville will most likely fall back.
No, they do get a pretty good EMP there, more of a tempo EMP, honestly, towards the latter end of that fight with getting 2, and that was all that was needed to help clean up the rest of it. But that was a very expensive fight for Side Hustle. They have really nothing to go on here, as Maryville is going to be coming back with a beat by Halo and a Pulse Bomb on the side of Light, right? So they can probably beat in aggressively here if they wanted. Light's going to be looking for a pick in the back line, so they have a couple more win conditions here to work with versus Side Hustle, but nothing gets changed with some good old aggressive W.
I mean, Papaya Pete is not only dropping the Fan the Hammer off cooldown, but he's dropping the Deadeye off what seems like a cooldown here. It's a nice sleep to take advantage of Eli on the backside. In the front line, Cameron will fall, but Light follows it up with a Pulse Bomb. So definitely another clean fight coming from Maryville as they again control the tempo and will walk this one through to Objective C.
Fishcake can only try and contest for so long on that payload before they're able to get to. So now they're on point C of Havana with a little less than 4 minutes, and this is really impressive because Havana can typically take a long time, as we see Light goes back to a Doomfist, which is a really interesting play on the third point of Havana. And he's so wide open of a map here at the end that you don't really see too much Doomfist, at least until like the cart would come near like the choke near the end of the map here, but maybe a little bit of a flanking Doomfist to cause some problems. There you go.
Oh, and he uppercuts Edison out of the Deadeye. The follow-up is there as well to get rid of Maximus, who is newly swapped on to the Sigma. The cleanup comes through as Papaya Pete drops another 3-piece on the objective. Orchid, after using that amplification matrix, falls in 3 minutes, and such a fast Objective C so far.
And Maryville's just speedrunning this. And more importantly, you saw Light boop everyone or uppercut everyone out of the invulnerability field that Orchid put down, right? So it's one of the valuable things that a Doomfist can do, is that you can just make them so vulnerable with that. But another flashback Fan the Hammer from Papaya Pete. I think he's going for a record here.
Yeah, I mean, what can you really do to stop 6 shots coming your way so fast? And what can you do to stop a huge Deadeye? It looks like it will pick up Edison there. As again, Maryville looking to get this early engage going. The Shatter on the other side does knock down Cameron, but he has one of his own. The question is, does he even commit it here, as they did lose Light and Guru here? No Grav ready to go. Edison's actually back on the Widow, but for now, they're just stalling things out.
Yeah, I think he was just going for a panic, not panic change, but like just as if they were going to be pushing, trying to go for a pick or two. But Guru now has this grab ready to go. I wonder if he's going to wait for Light to get that. Oh, they nano Light into that backline. It's going to be chaos as they go into this.
Sound barrier lands onto 6, but the grab also, it's very huge. Light taking down the immortality field. He definitely would have wanted more there with the Space Jam, the ultimate combo of the Meteor Strike and that Graviton Surge. Cameron still has his Shatter ready to go, but it looks like they won't be using it, as he's still on his way back from spawn at the moment. The Graphitic Flux in the tunnel here, that's going to pick off too, and Maryville, again, will have to retreat, but their time back is still pretty huge.
Eli, another random swap. These DPS players like to keep swapping things as their ult economy is going to get trashed here, but more importantly, they use that Gravitic Flux, and the fight was really already won, and that could have been pretty valuable in the next fight, as Halo doesn't have that beat. That could have been a one fight coming forward, but now they don't have that. So they still have a Shatter coming in by Milky Man, and Cameron's going to match that too. As we see, Papaya Pete has now swapped over to the Ashe, right? So they're just playing merry-go-round in the roulette of different DPS characters. Eli actually staying on the Bastion. This is not something I'd expect in the winners semifinals of the Open Division.
Oh, a huge Shatter coming down, and there's going to be a lot of capitalization going through before Maryville can drop in the sound barrier. That one goes the wayside, and the rest of the squad will retreat, as it seems like these DPS are playing mystery heroes here in the match, and Panic is playing hide and seek over in the tunnels.
Again, yeah, such a surprise here as Milky Man gets a fat shatter to win that last fight, and the camera still has that shatter coming in, but now still can't believe that Eli is staying on the Bastion, almost has his ultimate coming up here soon. But Side Hustle has both of these support ultimates coming in too, right? So they're going to be able to use that Matrix in front of Eli to be even more dangerous. It's probably explaining why the Pete is trying to flank here.
Light again receiving this nano boost and trying to get some damage done there as he uses the seismic slam to get on the high ground. Cameron again still unable to use this earth shatter as Halo nearly falls off the map, but he will be killed before he can get back on with the wall rides. Overtime is activated and Side Hustle finally with the advantage, but that advantage may be gone now that the meteor strike is coming through. Looks like Eli and the sound barrier will be enough for Side Hustle to hold on to this round. And I mean, point C, typically you'll see a hold coming through, but it was definitely very unexpected with how Maryville were doing so strong in the previous two.
Well, Bastion mains out there, eat your heart out, because that worked. I mean, I don't know what to say. Right? They had nearly 4 minutes in the last leg of this Havana map, only to swap to last second desperation Bastion, and getting value out of that was pretty important. I mean, I know that the last part of Havana C is impossible to really push through with this choke, is pretty devastating. But that's very impressive on the side of Side Hustle to be able to have a pretty gargantuan defense and prevent Maryville from fully completing the map. So now Side Hustle has a pretty defined win condition here to tie up this series. And I mean, I didn't think that was really going to work, right? I mean, between Eli and Edison just constantly swapping heroes every fight, depending on, they might be panicking to contest or trying to get a pick with that Widow. I mean, say what you want. They got results. I mean, can you say that it's the right decision or the right or wrong play if it gets you the result you want?
I mean, it was definitely an interesting play, and it looks like Maryville is going to do something that's maybe a bit more expected. They're going to pull out the Tracer and the Kree as they stay on their Brawl for the defense. And I mean, these picks currently coming in from the attack, we don't really need to talk about them very much because they'll most likely be swapped off of. But with this early hold coming through again, it looks like Maryville wants to get up in the spawn doors.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're going to stay on this Side Hustle with this Hog grind, but I did remember seeing on the player sheet of Side Hustle that Maximus thinks that he can make Hog work in any map in any situation. So we're going to put that theory to the test here, it seems, because he's flirting with playing it here before he gets out of the spawn door, but I think they're getting some more information before that fully commits to it. Oh, it goes for a hook and then probably will spawn. So yeah, already still spawning. Yeah, they're just going to be, the whole spawn camp thing will continue before this card gets pushed.
Maryville trying to stop up as much time as they can. They'll be fine with losing the fight here because, again, that time is going to be reduced and they will get a fight at the end of A unless a stagger comes through like Maryville did on attack. A lot of cooldowns forced early from Side Hustle, and they do actually lose the McCree duel by way of Papaya Pete here. Maximus caught out on the Zarya. He will be unable to find Halo there. He was a bit ahead in the sound barrier charge, but I mean, the only tool that Side Hustle really has to get out is that amplification matrix.
Yeah, they have that and they have wall, right? They can use Eli's wall to try and isolate targets here, but one thing that I don't know if they've tracked is that Cameron has a shatter already, right? I mean, look at the difference between Milky Man and Cameron here, as they're already using the amplification matrix and they're trying to press W them, but he can use this at any time he needs.
Cameron walled off, but he still feels safe committing the charge and will successfully get rid of Milky Man with the help of his DPS who claimed to in this fight. Cameron gets one of his own, but it's mostly Light cleaning things up. The nano boost is committed before Panic falls, but now there's no Ana, which means now a lot of that support is gone. So Maryville will retreat and try and hold at the corner this time around.
Yeah, and that's definitely a smart play here. Just go out, pick your Ana, get some high ground control here. They still have another good win condition here between Guru and Light having a pulse grab combination here. Orchid will have to use that immortality field in the right spot. They're going to know that's coming here before this next fight.
Yeah, Light just setting it up. Here comes the grab. The full spawn soon to follow. The immortality field is there at the moment, but those supports are also anti-grenaded, so still a lot of value gained there from the ultimates used by Maryville. Even if they don't get kills, they get momentum going in their favor, and they burn 2 minutes plus off the clock.
Yeah, and they just use all the utility, right, just to make sure that's alive. You use both bubbles in the grab, you use the mortality field, right? So by then, you don't have any more utility to be able to push the fight in your favor in the next coming minutes, and right, that's what allows Maryville to take the upper hand in that. But they do have a lot of ultimates coming into this next fight, including this beat and Blizzard, right? This is going to be really important. The Halo knows that this Blizzard's coming as the high noon is already getting popped by Edison.
We're just going to use the speed to get him around the corner. Papaya Pete is going to be dropping a Deadeye on the backside, but the Sound Barrier comes through and the kills do as well. Eli with 2 nice icicles there to open that one up for Side Hustle. They still have the grab, Blizzard, and Shatter moving forward.
Yeah, they're in a good position, right? They didn't use a ton there other than the beat and the high noon. So on the other hand, though, Maryville can contest this and push into this with this Shatter and an aggressive beat, right? So they can tempo beat this at any point to be able to ensure this. And this could be final fight because of how and where the time this takes place.
The ball comes early and the Sound Barrier in response, but it's a huge combo coming through. Nothing to save the frozen popsicles of Maryville University here as the Nano Boost comes on to Guru just to save him for a second, but so many ults in so little time mean that Side Hustle are going to cap our first objective.
And what's devastating about that is that Maryville invested both support ults into that. They really thought they'd win that fight, right? Especially after the getting frozen, Cameron getting frozen like that. Saves him with the Halo B, but as frozen, he gets a free Shatter for Milky Man, and he's already built the next, halfway to that next Shatter, right? So Maryville's in a good position. They still have that grab pulse combination as well as Shatter coming into this.
Oh no.
But they're going to have to wait a little bit longer because they're getting staggered out here by Side Hustle. Side Hustle's finding their groove here, slowly but surely.
Yeah, a great start on Objective B for Side Hustle as their time bank is a bit less than Maryville had here at this point on Objective B, but they're definitely going to be able to walk forward. Maryville, what do you think they can grab with this Grav Pulse combo or maybe the Shatter?
I mean, I think you might as well just throw that Shatter out first, right? I mean, try and get what you can without having to spend any of those more expensive ultimates in that Grab or the Pulse. But again, it's already getting picks already for Side Hustle.
Oh, but the grab and the pulse bomb in response, Halo is able to dispatch of Orchid's immortality field before it can save those members who were caught in the grab, but still those supports doing work on the other side of Side Hustle. Light trying his best to get rid of Fish Cake on the Lucio and will do so as Cameron is finally back in, finally uses that Shatter before he is instantly killed. And speaking of insta-kills, Eli had no chance. They are instantly capitalized upon by Papaya Pete as he gets another in this fight. Orchid is down. There's no immortality field available as Milky Man commits a huge charge into the back line and pays for it with his life. They might even get a few staggers out, but Side Hustle...
That was very interesting. That was just such a chaotic fight, right? It didn't really end from the first fight between that, right? So, I mean, they did use a decent amount of ultimates here, but Side Hustle does have some very powerful win conditions coming in with that Blizzard and Grab, right? They can do that frozen grab combination here because Halo doesn't have that beat yet, and only immortality field is coming out, but that's going to be forced out right here, right now.
Yeah, Cameron and crew in a ton of danger on the point. They are now popsicles and they are now dead here as Light drops in the pulse bomb to the backside, trying to save this one for his team, but it doesn't look like it will be enough. Side Hustle, again with a lower time bank, will walk it through to point C.
And this is going to be all coming down to the last couple of last minute and last fight in this point C, because we know as they are being able to contest this a decent amount. But by the time this is actually going to be going over to point C, once Cameron dies here, but they are putting a pretty good fight here so far. It's going to be in the last couple seconds, right, where they're going to have to go all the way out to that last point on towards the end of the map, because they're not going to have a whole lot of time, right? By the time this timer goes all the way there, it's going to be within the overtime. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if Side Hustle can make this magic continue to work, because they keep winning the fights that matter towards the end of these objectives.
Yeah, and that fight was very interesting. Maryville are definitely happy about that one, even if they didn't stall it out until another overtime fight. They got out both support ults. Anyways, Orchid is already halfway to his next ult. The Shatter comes through, and it looks like Side Hustle are attempting to get aggressive here as the Sound Barrier comes in response. Papaya Pete again winning this McCree duel as Milky Man charges away Cameron, but again he's going to pay for that with his life. The wall comes through in an attempt to save Maximus there, in an attempt to save that grab and the charge of the Zarya, but it will not be successful.
It's funny, in the first couple of fights in this match and map, you see everything was very kind of formulaic, and now everything's just kind of going to chaos. You're seeing people using shatters and grabs at times you never expect them to, as that grab is coming in from Guru. But now we're getting a counter grab from Maximus.
Yeah, it's a great response here as the amplified fire strike comes through. That picks up 2, and Edison with the double as well will again move Side Hustle into an overtime situation here as they only have 1 fight to win to tie up the series.
And just like I said, it's going to be coming down to the last final seconds, but more importantly, Side Hustle is in a perfect position for it. Papaya Pete is going to swap over to that same Bastion attempt, but they have Blizzard ready to go here for this final fight. They need to take the fight on point.
Papaya Pete instantly walled off, but that Bastion can burn through a wall and burn through a shield very quickly as you see Melky Man's shield going down early. But Fishcake, the unlikely hero here, gets rid of the Bastion. The Blizzard comes through, and it looks like Side Hustle will be able to clean up yet another clutch fight. The sound barrier is the cherry on top as Fishcake spins around and Side Hustle spins their way back into this series 1-all.
I mean, I have to say, if you're on the side of Maryville, you have to be kicking yourself a little bit for how well they were doing on their attack, just being completely dominant, having about 4 minutes going into point C Havana, only to getting stopped into, towards the end of the final objective. And then you have Side Hustle only winning the fights they really needed to win at every point, right? They were just clutch in the most important way. It really felt like Maryville's map until it didn't, if that makes sense, right? Until the fact that you had that last fight, that all they needed to win was one of those fights at the end of those different points on Havana, and it would have been a 2-0 lead for Maryville. Regardless, we're tied up here in the semifinals match.
Yeah, like you said, it felt like Maryville did have control during most of Havana, but Side Hustle had that clutch factor. They pulled out the Bastion when they needed to on defense, and Maryville were unable to pull out that Bastion and make it work. So Side Hustle barely getting back in this one, but it will be interesting to see what map we go next. But Beak, before we go to our intermission and then our next map, anything else you'd like to analyze about our previous one?
No, I think we're only going to get more interesting from here. I think it's just the early beginnings of what could be a pretty great match.
Yeah, definitely going to be an amazing series as we will continue after a short break. Make sure you guys stick around because Side Hustle and Maryville all tied up at the half, and they will continue to put on an amazing show.